So as you guys might know, Trackmania World Tour is happening very, very soon. And I, as a professional former caster, and maybe in the future, who knows, will guide you through the maps. I reacted to each and every one of the world records on the new tournament maps, trying to tell you where some points of interest are, and just generally trying to give you a good feel for what you're going to be looking forward to here in the Trackmania World Tour. So let's just get right into it. This map is arrow pipes. You jump from pipe to pipe. In the ending, that's the identity. Let's take a look at the world record. It's Kappa with the world record here, a keyboard player. Also, a previous world champion of the game. Let's check out his lines here and what he seems to do to be faster. Now, we also have to remember, and this is a thing that's happened a lot in previous TMGLs and stuff, is that people will practice maps offline to not reveal any hidden last-minute strategies, right? That's a really nice ice slide. Okay, didn't drift here. Jumps in, gets an inside turn, and this is just a taste of the identity. That little pipe he had to land on is a taste of the identity. The identity is 3 separate pipes you have to jump from. On one pipe, then jump over to another pipe, then jump over to a last pipe, and then into the finish. It can be very, very difficult. So right here, he's gonna go into a slide and then an engine off. And this is important to get the speed out of that engine off, because if you don't carry the momentum, you're not going to be able to have these jumps happen. So he lands on the first pipe, lands on the second pipe, and then lands on the third pipe over here. Once again, that's a very clean round. Super difficult to execute in a rounds mode format. And I do think the players are going to make mistakes on those pipes. I think they're going to be a lot more consistent than you might think. But I also think that we're going to see a lot of changes in position. We're going to have to see a lot of crashes, especially since if you have your opponent 0.1 behind you, you know that they're going to risk it, and you can't afford to save it if somebody's close. So even first place is going to risk the ending, and risking this identity is incredibly difficult and will result in a lot of people crashing. So I think this is going to be an interesting map. The only thing that is about the map is that it's very consistent, which means that we're going to have tight races all the way up to the ending, and it's going to feel like most of the map is just a waiting room until you get to the end to see if somebody fails the identity. So everybody will be tight, hopefully, all the way up to the ending, and then they're all going to risk the ending, and then somebody's going to fail, and some others are not. And that's going to be the deciding factor. And some people are not going to like that. They're going to say, well, the identity is just the map, and there is merit to saying that, but it is what it is. It's the way they've chosen to make the things happen. Next map. So this is a gyroscope. Let's just jump into the world record by Wizzy. Okay, I don't think Wizzy is playing in the World Cup or the TMGL. He might be a contestant for, you know, entering the Challenger. I don't know. Either way, this is a little bit of a weird map, because the identity of this map, as you just saw right there. Oh, he's one of the mappers. I see. That's nice. Yeah, it's difficult to know because all the maps are from... It says they're uploaded from the same guy. Doesn't matter. The identity is very wicked. You have to do 360s because there is a mechanic in the game. This has to be explained during the cast as well. There's a mechanic in the game that if you drive backwards through boosters that try to push you forwards, they affect you a lot less than if you just try to drive straight over them. And therefore, on these ice sections, they're forced to, like right here, they're forced to do a 360, drive over the boosters backwards, then turn around again. And they're going to do it one more time here. Drive over the boosters backwards. And it is just a mechanic in the game that if you drive backwards over boosters, they affect you less than if you drive forwards over them. And therefore, if you have boosters pointing in the wrong direction, if you drive through them backwards, they will not affect you as much. In fact, they can actually boost you if you do backward speed sliding. So that mechanic has to be explained a little bit, but it's a very wicked trick. If you did not know about the trick, people will question why it is that they turn around at all in the first place. But this looks very clean. This ice slide right here, I don't know if people are gonna slide out. I kept sliding out of that ice slide, but let's be fair, I'm not great at ice. So I'm assuming the pros will be able to do that consistently, but there might be a few slide outs. Also there, the lower you go, the less airtime and the faster you're gonna be, right? So there are a few points of interest in the map where players have the option to outpace the others, but it is gonna be a lot down to who does not fall off during the identity. Who fell off, plus ratio, plus that Nask during the identity is gonna be one of the big questions. Let's go to the next track. Okay, Masa with the world record. Let's go. So this map is slowdown. And the reason the map is called Slowdown is because you have to be able to really calculate and just very consistently control your speed in the ending, okay? So the ending has an identity which requires you to slow down enough to not get airtime, because if you do, you will get a fragile block going. That's what we're gonna see here in a second. Such an inside line there coming in from Masa. This spot, I feel like there should be some trees. It looks very barren to me. So we're gonna jump into the identity right here. You can see how he has to slow down to make this jump, or not jump, to make the uphill and the downhill without getting airtime. And the reason you don't want to get airtime is because he drove over a fragile block. And if you guys did not know, if you get airtime and land during a fragile block, chances are you're going to break your car. So to avoid that, the players are going to try to minimize airtime while still holding the optimal amount of speed to gain the momentum throughout the next uphill. And that can be very difficult and also very, very risky. And as we talked about on the first map here, the players are going to be very close to each other because the execution of this map is going to be pretty consistent. I don't see a lot of places on this map where players are going to make huge mistakes other than the ending. The map looks very consistent to drive all the way through until the ending. So the players will be close up until here, and then they're going to have to risk it right here. And players are going to fly off, or they're going to lose too much speed. And that's what the map is going to be about. The map is going to be about who's able to control their line as well as their speed the most on these hills. And it's going to be a little bit interesting. It might be less of a hectic identity, but I still think it's going to be interesting to watch, especially because it rewards consistency so much. Being able to consistently get those turns with the momentum you carry through is going to be what determines who's going to be first. And it looks like Masa has it down, so well done, Masa in chat. Best map, but also easiest. Yeah, I do think there's merit to saying that it's going to be very, very close throughout the rounds. You see the general tactic seems to be quite the same. Oh, Masa going for a different line here than his opponents. Going for a little bit of a wider approach. It's going to set him up for more speed on the uphill that carries through until the finish as well. Nice line. We got Wosile doing agility dash. I remember Agility Dash being a map where I said this is a difficult map. Coming from Slowdown to this map feels very difficult. Already in the beginning. It's also a very fast-paced map. Might favor players like Mudda, who is a known full-speed player. This is more of a, this is obviously a mixed map style. But I think just because of the speed of the map, there are going to be some players that prefer it more than others. And of course, very speedy maps are also way more punishing when it comes to mistakes, because gaining the speed back up to your opponents is going to be close to impossible. So there's a few small things that you can do to optimize time. There's a speed slide here, where when you speed slide, you get more acceleration than if you didn't. And then right here, we have one of the first true resets in speed. So everybody will have the same speed going into here. No matter what speed you enter that slide with, you're probably going to have the same speed exiting the slide. So there's a speed reset. This is also a speed reset, making sure the players don't get too far away from each other. But I want to say that the map is going to be very, very punishing when it comes to making a mistake. We're going to jump into the identity, where you jump into this plastic block, jump up to the next one, down, up, and then into the finish over here. I remember when I played this seemed incredibly difficult. Now, obviously, the pros, they are accustomed to difficult stuff like this, but I do think that there's going to be quite a few mistakes, especially due to the risk factor. Everybody has to risk because some people are going to be close to each other, and if you don't risk, you're just going to get overtaken. There's no other option. So it's going to be very interesting to see who has the most consistent way of doing that. I think there's also merit to safing and then conceding first place to somebody else. If you see that, since it's a 2 versus 2 format, if you see that an opponent's teammate has crashed, you can go for second and third, I believe, and you're still going to tie the point. The tournament will be early next year. But this map looks very pleasant. It's very fast-paced. I also think that a fast-paced map like this is good for the audience to watch. It's just pleasant as a spectator to watch somebody go fast, and this map definitely showcases that quite a bit. Here's a few difficult slides They will reset the speed once again, making sure the players don't get too far away from each other. Here, you don't want to get too much airtime. Perfect slide coming in here. This is the same identity that was on Knife's Edge in a previous TMGL. Also difficult to execute if you're going really fast. But I think the identity in itself here is going to be what is going to kill a few players. This is very difficult. I know that Wosal here is making it look like he's just not having an issue at all, but I believe that people are going to crash here, especially due to people having to risk. Now, Reps had an identity that I remember being difficult. It's not going to look super flashy, but it's going to be very difficult, right? So we have a tech turn here on a sausage block, another really inside hairpin. You want to make sure you get the speed, the momentum to carry through, because there is quite a long section there where you can gain time by just having 1 or 2 more speed than your opponents. Outside third line, once again, carry the momentum through this uphill. A lot of tech will always just be about getting the smallest drift possible to make sure that you don't lose the speed that you generated before the drift, and subsequently you will have more momentum going out of the drift. Now we're nearing the identity right now. After this turn, this left-hander, you want to do a specific line on the downhill. You want to drive on the penalty grass to make sure you don't get airtime, and then you have to jump over here, carry the speed, jump over here, carry the speed, and do that one more time. So you land down here, you want to carry the speed to be able to jump up here. And the identity is not going to look super flashy. Like, I understand that didn't look super flashy. Like, they didn't drive upside down or do any wicked flips or anything. But if you know how to play the game and you've tried the map, you can appreciate just how difficult that is. I'm not able to do it. I tried for a solid like 15 minutes, 10-15 minutes to get those jumps, and they were incredibly difficult. It seems like Serad here is going for a little bit of a different line. He does catch up to the rest of the people, but it might be the identity that is coming back up on. You can see that Feed and Shamsi is in the lead. Wosal and Kakao are trying to fight it as well. But Serax, even though he is last place here, he does overtake everybody. That was a nice line into the loop. And now it's going to be the identity that decides it. And I think that's where he gets his time, obviously. Very, very nice downhill here, actually putting him at a full car length ahead of his opponent. So the downhill, you can risk that a little bit by making sure that you get the most amount of speed without getting the airtime. And then the ending. Oh, some of the world records opt to not go for the finish on the beam. I mean, that is fair enough. I don't think you lose too much. You lose maybe, I don't know, 0.1. So it does look like even in the top 5, quite a few, at least 3 out of the 5 people in top 5 don't opt for going for the intended risky finish. And they go for the safe finish just due to the difficulty, I assume. It is incredibly difficult. I, once again, as I said, tried this multiple times. I have difficulties making the first jump, let alone the second jump. This is a very impressive and difficult identity if you know how it works. The unfortunate section is that it doesn't look that flashy, and people that don't realize how difficult it is will question why the players aren't just jumping to the nearest finish. And that means that the casters are going to have to explain that this is actually so much more difficult than it looks. You're going to see 3 people. 2 of them went for the safe finish. 1 of them went for the risky and didn't make it. And he's still in the top 5 world. Yeah, 1 guy even clipped. Just showing you how difficult the identity is if that's still in the top 5 world. But I do think Kakao went for the safe one. Nope, he's the one who clipped. Yep. And to go for the safe one, you just jump straight, and there's just a finish right behind the risky finish. It's a very small amount of time loss, and I do think just because the time loss is so low, it's faster to go for the safe finish than it is to go for the risky if you clip. So we might see a lot of people go for the safe finish as well. Now let's go to the next map. So here we have a little bit of a backwards map gimmick. I like the backwards maps. I think it's a fun gimmick. Oh, I didn't even see the start here. I didn't do this for the start. So I thought the intended way was to drive backwards and then turn around on that ice block, but people just drive forwards there. It seems obvious now that I see it, but that's smart thinking. But the identity is a backwards identity, and it's incredibly difficult because you have so much speed that the amount of time you have to do the inputs is very tight. So you want to drive. It's a little bit of a slalom section. You want to drive left, right, etc. And the amount of time you have to react to those inputs are very, very small. So it's going to be mostly down to muscle memory. The fact is that the people are going to have different speeds going into this section. So depending on your speed, you're going to have different turns. But you can see it's very, very tight. If they do the turn just a little bit too slow right here as well, they're not going to make it. And I know it looks very consistent when they're doing it right now. That is a very, very beautiful overtake there in the ending by Glass. If they don't do it perfectly there in the ending, they're going to have to either slow down or they're going to fly out the map. I believe that people are going to make mistakes. Not huge mistakes where you're going to see, oh no, he crashed full. No, I think it's going to be mistakes where people are going to release or drive slower because they made an input just a little bit too slow. And once again, it's not a flashy identity, so people are going to question why was one faster than the other, and it just comes down to execution and being able to full send it, which they're going to be able or going to have to do due to the pressure from the people right behind them. Everybody's going to full send these turns. So once again, we go into the identity, get the backward section. Dog is in front, as you can see, and he actually maintains the lead all the way until the ending. And it's because he did one slow input. So he goes left a little bit too late. And due to that, just a tiny slow input, he got overtaken by like 1.5 car lengths. Also difficult identity, an identity where the inputs and the timing of them make a huge difference. We go on to the next one. Flip of Faith. Now, the Flip of Faith, I'm gonna watch a lot of people do this. I'm assuming that all 5 people in the top 5 here all do the flip consistently. Like they all made it, but it's so difficult. So even we have Solly here as well. Nice Danish represent. We also have America, which is nice. Wolsal and Kappa, Scander in there as well. These 2 first flips are incredibly difficult. Nixotica executed that perfectly, but let's just take a look at these are all the 5 world records, okay? These are the fastest people in the world on this map as of current. And just look at the difference in their landings, right? Look at the difference in their landings. That is an incredible difference. And because there's such a... I want to see this from somebody in the back's perspective. But you can see Nixotica is not in the front. Right? So depending on how much you risk it, and especially depending on the landing you get here on the top platform, you're gonna have a lot more exit speed, and that is inconsistent. I do not believe that even the pros are gonna be able to do that consistently, and therefore we're gonna see a few changes in positioning, and we're also gonna see some players just have straight up more momentum than the other players going into that sausage block section. So and you saw Nixotica do it right there. Nixotica is doing exactly what I told you. Some people are gonna have just a lot more speed because of the landing, and I'm gonna say I think it's inconsistent. Now the ending here is the identity. The identity is also super inconsistent. You have 2 barrel rolls, one here, and then you have to set up for another. The setup for the second one, just I know it looks so clean when he does it, but there's no shot people are not gonna fail that. Like, I believe that this map is where we're gonna see the most crash, or at least the biggest discrepancy in time, because the nature of the map makes it so easy to make mistakes. Can we take a look from Scandir's perspective? So how does he make this jump? He's also in the front here. You can see he jumps pretty high, and that allows for both Kappa and Wosal to overtake, and Nixotica as well, because he's also there in the front. This is kind of a big discrepancy. On usual TMGL maps, especially if they're consistent, we're going to see all the players within 0.1 of each other throughout the entire map, or at least throughout most of the map until the identity. Here we're going to see upwards of like 0.3, 0.5 of a deficit just because of a few jumps. My voice didn't crack. I'm 27 years old. Don't laugh at me. And then here in the identity, people are still going to try to full send it, especially the ones in the back. The ones that are like 0.3, 0.5 behind the leader, they're gonna full send the identity, and that's gonna force the people in the front to also full send it, because otherwise you're just gonna get overtaken. Which means that it's once again gonna be one of those things where the ending is also gonna be so important. Like the person who's half a second in the lead isn't necessarily the person who's gonna finish first, because he still has to do an incredibly difficult identity to maintain that lead. I don't know. It seems rough. Let's go to the next one here. Oh, Scrappy with the world record here. Oh, whoops. Alright, so taking a look at Freestyle. Freestyle had an interesting identity as well, but if I remember correctly, the map up until the ending was not that bad. Is this the map with the quarter pipe ice jump? That might see a few players have some tricky setups. I did say that this no steer section we might see some people fail, but I do think that it's very, very consistent. The only reason they would fail is if they would risk it fully. Now we're gonna go into this quarter pipe or half pipe ice jump. I think we're gonna also see a few changes in positions here, because you can risk it quite a lot. Scrappy executing it perfectly right here. You want to get that low air time. and then just enter the booster as fast as possible. Once again, here, if you guys did not know, there's a Trackmania mechanic where you want to make sure that you release before you enter a jump instead of doing it during a jump. So we're going to see the players enter that uphill with a very specific speed. Everybody's going to have approximately the same so that they can land in the downhill cleanly. You can also see that Scrappy is opting to not do a 360 when he does this jump, opting to just go as low as possible and then do, I don't know what to call that mechanic, dirt wall climbing. You can do it in a specific way. So he doesn't do the 360. I do think that not doing the 360 is going to be pretty scary for a lot of players, but it's one of the easy identities. I think it's one of the easier identities. So it's going to be up to the risk on the nose steer section. It's going to be up to the 180 on the ice, like the half pipe on the ice, and then also low airtime on the identity. Those are going to be the 3 points of interest and go-to things to look at when you look at players' pace. So you can see Flargo's in the lead here, but Scrappy is going to come in and under. I know you couldn't see it, but Scrappy came in and under and overtook him right there due to having less airtime. And Flanco going super wide here. Gets more speed in the uphill, but he has to slow down for the jump anyway. So I don't think that wide line is going to be worth it looking from just a perspective, like from a viewer perspective, but what do I know? I'm not a pro player. But you can see all of the players, they're definitely going for that non-360. Mime actually coming in here in the top 4, overtaking Flanco. And you can see that there's a difference in the execution and the ending. You can risk the ending a little bit more than the others. But yeah, no, I think this is a nice map. I think there's several points of interest, and the identity doesn't look as scary as some of the others. The whole map isn't just going to come down to who risks who fails the identity. It's going to come down to who actually executes the identity the best. Let's jump into the next one. Once again, Scrappy here in the lead. We have Bren on 5th. Let's take a look at Bren and compare him to the top people. The top 4 in front of him. So I really like the parkour map because it looks wicked. I said this during my discovery of it. I think it's a map that showcases some of the gimmicks that Trackmania has to offer to people that don't necessarily play the game often. The map is wicked. You'll land an ice slide. You have a very wicked identity that looks super fun to play. Like, you don't know how difficult it is when you look at the pros do it, so it just looks fun to play. And I think maps like this, even though that it's, you know, they have to focus on the competitive setting, they have to focus on making it difficult, but maps like this really showcase to the broader audience that are gonna be watching some of the intricacies that Trackmania has that other card games don't. But here, going into the identity, you want to jump, keep a lot of speed, and then do this parkour section, jumping from platform to platform, very specific lines. And once again, this is more difficult than it looks. Like, everybody here makes it look so clean and easy, but I promise you guys, we're gonna see mistakes here, especially due to the pressure there is in a rounds format. So we're gonna see mistakes, and there is a checkpoint in the middle of that section, in the middle of the identity section. And if you make a mistake, let's say you clip right after the checkpoint, you're gonna have to full respawn. That might be a thing we have to watch out for. This ice slide, you can slide out. You can also get way less momentum out of the ice slide. So there's going to be a point of interest as well. If you get a bad entrance into that turn, you're also going to get a bad turn in itself. And that's going to actually damage you all the way up until this quarter pipe. Also, we might see people fall out of the bobsleigh. It's a possibility. Not going to lie, that it is difficult to enter a bobsleigh that doesn't have a high wall and such a tight turn with a lot of speed without falling out. So we might see a few people just fall out of the bobsleigh turn. It might happen. I can't promise that. And then the identity, I believe we're going to see people clip the identity and then have to respawn from the respawn. I think that's inevitable. This is a difficult identity. It looks a lot more difficult than what we're seeing. So we're going to see some mistakes. Let's jump into the next one. Then we have slippy slides. Let's take a look at Masi here with the world record. So Masa has world record on 2 of the maps. That's really nice to see. The question is if it's that his true pace or the pace that he chooses to show people is the question. You might know that, for example, players like Paul Jr. haven't shown up even once. That's because they're known for doing their practice offline and then saving their actual pace till the matches. So here we have an interesting map, showcases some water mechanics and some wet wheel mechanics, which also has to be explained to the audience once that time comes. But yeah, a lot of wet wheel mechanics on this map, especially in the identity where you have wet wheels into a plastic bug slide. Bug sliding is going to be incredibly difficult to explain to audience how that works. We have a bug slide here, and then another bug slide in the identity. No sign of Mudda either. That's actually a good point. But here, wet tires and bug sliding. Now, if you guys don't know, you can get like an incredible amount of grip on surfaces by executing some bug slide mechanics. I don't think it's necessary to explain the whole bug sliding mechanic to the new players, but I think it's just important to say that there is a mechanic where you can get grip on surfaces like that by executing a specific set of inputs. And that's what the players are doing right here. And it is not a difficult set of inputs. The difficulty in the identity doesn't lie in the inputs that you gotta do. The difficulty in identity lies in the very, very specific angle that you need to land with your car to have that section of inputs actually be worth it to do. Well, it's always going to be worth it to do the bug slide, but if you don't set it up right, you're not gonna have that great of a section. The initial conditions for getting the bug slide is as important as executing the bug slide itself. Here you go. You see, he lands in a perfect setting where he can initiate the bug slide immediately. He doesn't have to turn and wait for the bug slide to initiate. He landed in that 90-degree angle and initiated the bug slide immediately from the landing. And that's what you want to do. And because you have water wheels, the setup for that is actually incredibly difficult. But that was the maps. I really like the map pack. Some maps are a little bit cleaner than the others, but all in all, really cool map pack. I enjoyed it. Hope you guys enjoyed it as well. If you did enjoy me reacting to those world records and also explaining something about the maps, feel free to leave a follow or subscribe on YouTube. I would really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And yes, good job. Woo! Nice. Yay.